Okay. This is Boston Red live on the 17th of February 2016. The title of our episode is Made in the USA. The administration of DJ Trump, as reported by the AP, had entertained the possibility of using U.S. Federalized troops, what it amounts to. They call National Guard troops. Now, this is not the first time they have been used, but only for observatory purposes in the background. And I'll read it. This is from the Guardian. Here, the AP reported it. Trump administration considered a proposal to mobilize as many as 100,000 National Guard troops to round up unauthorized immigrants, including millions living in the U.S., nowhere near the Mexican border. That's according to the AP. 11-page document called for unprecedented militarization of immigration enforcement as far north as Portland, Oregon, and as far east as New Orleans, Louisiana. 4 states that border Mexico were included in the proposal: California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, but it also encompassed 7 states continuous to those 4: Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Governors in 11 states would have a choice regarding whether they have their National Guard troops participate. That's according to the memo written by General Kelly of Homeland Security. He's a retired 5-star Marine general. Up his fame, the White House Press Secretary Spicer told the press on board Marine One, on which Trump was flying to Joint Base Andrews, that is in Maryland, en route to South Carolina. This is 100% not true. It's false. It's responsible to say this. Using the present tense, he said there is no effect at all to round up, to utilize the National Guard to round up illegal aliens. The Homeland Security played parrot here and said basically the same thing. Gillian Christensen and said that in an email to the Guardian. Spicer would not categorically state that such a roundup was never a subject of discussion at any level in the Trump administration. He added, it's not a White House document. The AP made clear that the document was written by Kelly. Well, Kelly speaks for the president, so it originated from the Department of Homeland Security. National Guard personnel have been used to assist prior on the border. That was by G.W. Bush. The memo was addressed to them, acting head of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Service, that's ICE, and of the Custom and Border Protection, to serve as a guidance to implement a wide-ranging executive order. That was the one that the court in Seattle blocked. Also dated on the 25th, the draft memo said participating troops would be authorized to perform functions of an immigration officer in relation to the investigation, apprehension, detention of aliens in the U.S. It described how the troops would be activated under revised federal participation program, and state personnel would be authorized to conduct searches, identify and arrest any unauthorized aliens. The AP requested to the White House Department of Homeland Security for comments and a status report. The draft document is circulated at the Homeland Security for over 2 weeks, and as recently as Friday, staffers in several offices reported discussions were underway. If implemented, the impact could be significant. Nearly half of the 11.5 million, that's an estimate there, residing in the U.S. without authorization live in the 11 states. That's according to the Pew Center on the estimated on the 2014 census. Use of National Guard troops would greatly increase the number of immigrants targeted in one of Trump's executive orders. He promised yesterday in his rambling news conference to come with a new order. As spokespeople for the governors of Arizona, Utah, Nevada, California, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Oregon and New Mexico said they weren't aware of the proposal. and I would decline to comment or say that it was premature to discuss whether they would participate. The proposal would extend the federal-local partnership program that President Obama began to scale back in 2012. It is called 287G program, which Trump did include that in his order. So you have to read these orders that DJ Trump puts out very, very carefully. The memo also ordered the hiring of 5,000 additional border agents, which needs financing from the Congress. He doesn't have the money, in other words. In addition to responding to natural and man-made disasters, are for military protection of populations, critical infrastructure. State guard forces have been used to assist in immigration tasks on the border, including the construction of fences. And they recite the G.W. Bush deployed troops on the border to focus on non-law enforcement duties. In 2010, the then Governor Jan Brewer announced a border security plan that included guard reconnaissance, aerial patrols, and military exercises. Rick Perry, who is part of the Trump administration, I wonder if he brought the rock along this time, ordered 1,000 National Guardmen, but he didn't have any money. They had to go to food shelves and try to get food stamps. The federal watchdogs were critical of DHS, ran the program and saying it was poorly supervised and provided insufficient training, including on civil rights law. President Obama phased out all the arrest power agreements in 2013, instead focusing on deporting recent border crossers and immigrants. Last year, the total arrested, the fifth lowest since 1972. As the nation detention centers at the nation's southern borders were down significantly. And Chuck Schumer, leading Democrat, called for the possibility of roundup despicable. Well, no doubt despicable. In the Latino community, people are not happy. There was a one-day strike by Latinos that brought out thousands of people across the U.S. Even the Fairfax and Homeland Security would write such a memo describing police state tactics as outrageous, with 1,000 troops roaming through the Latino community. That is from Frank Sherry. He's the executive director of American Voice. And various others. Mr. Castro, he's from San Antonio. After attending an ICE meeting, it's hard not to conclude that Trump has started his mass deportation plan. He talked about it. And what Trump talked about in his ranting and raving news conference yesterday, which you will hear some of it in a minute here, that the American Immigration Lawyers Association, Bill Stock, his president, said that the draft memo was in tune with the way that the administration was conducting deportation raids. Agencies have been empowered by DJ Trump to get their deportation numbers up, and they do not appear to be terribly concerned about collateral damage. If they encounter an undocumented person, they are picking them up. Stock said that the memo got close to the implementation of legal questions that would be asked should the military troops from a domestic matters. Now, in 1878, Posse Comitatus Act imposed strict limitations on the use of federal military personnel in carrying out domestic policy. That was after the Civil War. In 2006, the administration of G.W. Bush mobilized National Guard on the southern border in a support capacity. So that is a different situation. And we had last night on Friday Jobber, Professor Rush. He's out of the Berkeley University. He's an economist, and he was a labor secretary in Bill Clinton's administration. And chaos is the optimum term. It was sounded by none other than John McCain in Europe, saying that the Trump administration was disorganized, whereas Trump said it's like a fine machine, he called it. Tune machine, I should say. But in itself, it's a disgrace to humanity. There's no doubt about that. Trump also made a foray before he went on holiday to South Carolina, a Boeing plant there, that they were putting a Dreamliner up. So he took a photo op with officials of the Boeing Aircraft Organization there. That's his whole theme, creating quote-unquote jobs. But the creation of these so-called jobs in itself is a strange situation, very strange, and it will continue to be very, very strange. And this is from Charlotte. Wait a minute here, just a sec. Trump supporters are loving his combative stance with the media. That critics of President Trump saw his news conference as combative. Well, he's been combative all along. But he's holding these campaign-style rallies, which is reminiscent of the types of rallies that Adolf Schicklgruber, otherwise known as Hitler, held in Germany. He will have one down in Melbourne, Florida. That is between Orlando and Jacksonville, the home of Stetson Kennedy, a campaigner against the Klan. Now, that in itself tells it all. That now that is used as a format, and we'll see exactly where it goes in those terms. Now, a lot of information was spent, or time, I should say, with DJ Trump talking about the situation in the Russian Federation. With the Russian Federation, he labeled it fake news, and then he went on to lament that he was the least anti-Semitic person you'll ever meet, anti-racist person, but he gave no data for that. And he also asked April Ryan, she is a reporter, a journalist for the Urban Radio Network, to set up a meeting with the Black Caucus. Now, she does not work for DJ Trump. He's got plenty of functionaries there. Not very many African Americans, but at least he has functionaries. Perhaps he could have Uncle Ben Carlson do it, or who knows who he's got to do it, but he's got somebody. In other news, the Pruitt climate denier is now heading the EPA, and you can sort of tell how things are set on their heads, and we live in an interesting situation, and we have this situation put upon us that progressive people are now fighting back, organizing the demonstrations on yesterday and on March 8th, I believe. The women, a day without women, that'll be a massive, hundreds of thousands of people will take part. And yet, on May Day, which is the International Workers' Day, that's May 1st, more hundreds of thousands of people will demonstrate and strike. So it is going on out there, and as more and more various people come in from Guts and news site that is by the veteran Dan Rather here. He's mentioning, now this is from Team Vogue. Notice that when Trump tweeted photos of last night of his staff that read "Make America Great Again," it only featured European people and one woman. As the magazine pointed out, more than one-third of the American people are people of color, yet the representation there is not very many. But this is from a man that is not a racist. We could also point out about half the population is made up of women. Very few women were in that. Dan and his people are on top of it. Now, this is not to say that DJ Trump is necessarily a racist. We've communicated with the man before a few times. I don't want to say many times, but yeah, he's an average European. There's no doubt about that. But what we have to look at is not what DJ Trump thinks personally. It's sort of like the whole idea of anti-Semitism. His daughter is Jewish, no doubt about Ivanka Trump, and no doubt about that. His children are also grandkids, I should say. But that doesn't exempt him from running anti-Semitic situations. He's got Bannon there, the white supremacist alt-right character, and the swastika goose-stepping Miller. As long as he has those kinds of people in his administration, they will come out with anti-Semitic statements. But beyond that, violence has occurred across the nation. In Jewish institutions, swastikas put in dorms. In fact, excuse me, in one state, they arrested someone for putting a swastika and various other things in a public area in a dormitory. I think it was the University of Minnesota. But these kinds of activities have come up. Even old Craig, what's his name, out in North Dakota, he wanted to name his new racist town, if he ever gets it up and going, Trump. So in other words, these people identifying with Trump, he knows that. So he'll have his mass rally down in Melbourne. Some people I know down there better stay home. Trump will be I think he's in an aircraft hangar. That's at the airport between there and Orlando, which has Disneyland and now Disney whatever there. And the people will be there in great numbers. They'll be standing in line to get in to see Trump, and he'll run his standard campaign operation, basically what we'll be running here. So let me go to a little bit of DJ Trump. He was speaking at the White House yesterday, and we'll see where he is. And we have to find where we placed our video. Hopefully it is there. I don't see the playlist here. I'm using on Spreaker. I'm using the new app here, and we're seeing if we can get this new app going. Perhaps I'll have to go to old school. I'm looking here at the emptiness of our tracks. They should appear here, but evidently they have not appeared. So we'll just have to go to the old tried and true method of doing this that we used to use. We just do it directly from the MP3 that we recorded, and we'll listen to a little bit of DJ Trump. We don't want to be nauseating, as one would say, there. But this is basically the essence of what DJ Trump had to say to the people, and we got to find him. We'll have to get him up here.
Of time has done what we've done. A new Rasmussen poll, in fact, because the people get it. Much of the media doesn't get it. They actually get it, but they don't write it. Let's put it that way. But a new Rasmussen poll just came out just a very short while ago, and it has our approval rating at 55% and going up. The stock market has hit record numbers, as you know, and there has been a tremendous surge of optimism in the business world, which is, to me, means something much different than it used to. It used to mean, oh, that's good. Now it means that's good for jobs. Very different. Plants and factories are already starting to move back into the United States, and big league, Ford, General Motors, so many of them. I'm making this presentation directly to the American people with the media present, which is an honor to have you. This morning, because many of our nations reporters and folks will not tell you the truth and will not treat the wonderful people of our country with the respect that they deserve. And I hope going forward we can be a little bit different and maybe get along a little bit better if that's possible. Maybe it's not, and that's okay too. Unfortunately, much of the media in Washington, D.C., along with New York, Los Angeles in particular, speaks not for the people, but for the special interests and for those profiting off a very, very obviously broken system. The press has become so dishonest that if we don't talk about it, we are doing a tremendous disservice to the American people. Tremendous disservice. We have to talk about it to find out what's going on, because the press honestly is out of control. The level of dishonesty is out of control. I ran for president to represent the citizens of our country. I am here to change the broken system so it serves their families and their communities well. I am talking and really talking on this very entrenched power structure, and what we're doing is we're talking about the power structure. We're talking about its entrenchment. As a result, the media is going through what they have to go through to oftentimes distort, not all the time, and some of the media is fantastic, I have to say. They're honest and fantastic. But much of it is not. The distortion, and we'll talk about it, you'll be able to ask me questions about it. But we're not going to let it happen, because I'm here again to take my message straight to the people. As you know, our administration inherited many problems across government and across the economy. To be honest, I inherited a mess. It's a mess. At home and abroad, a mess. Jobs are pouring out of the country. You see what's going on with all of the companies leaving our country, going to Mexico and other places. Low pay, low wages, mass instability overseas, no matter where you look. The Middle East, a disaster. North Korea, we'll take care of it, folks. We're going to take care of it all. I just want to let you know, I inherited a mess. Beginning on day one, our administration went to work to tackle these challenges. On foreign affairs, we've already begun enormously productive talks with many foreign leaders, much of it you've covered, to move forward towards stability, security, and peace in the most troubled regions of the world, of which there are many. We have had great conversations with the United Kingdom and meetings, Israel, Mexico, Japan, China, and Canada. Really, really productive conversations. I would say far more productive than you would understand. We've even developed a new council with Canada to promote women's business leaders and entrepreneurs. Very important to me, very important to my daughter Ivanka. I have directed our defense community, headed by our great general, now Secretary Mattis. He's over there now working very hard to submit a plan for the defeat of ISIS, a group that celebrates the murder and torture of innocent people in large sections of the world. It used to be a small group, now it's in large sections of the world. They've spread like cancer. ISIS has spread like cancer. Another mess I inherited. And we have imposed new sanctions on the nation of Iran, who's totally taken advantage of our previous administration. And they're the world's top sponsor of terrorism. And we're not going to stop until that problem is properly solved. And it's not properly solved now. It's one of the worst agreements I've ever seen drawn by anybody. I've ordered plans to begin for the massive rebuilding of the United States military. I've had great support from the Senate. I've had great support from Congress generally. We've pursued this rebuilding in the hopes that we will never have to use this military. And I will tell you, that is I would be so happy if we never had to use it. But our country will never have had a military like the military we're about to build and rebuild. We have the greatest people on earth in our military, but they don't have the right equipment, and their equipment is old. I used it. I talked about it at every stop. Depleted. It's depleted. It won't be depleted for long. And I think one of the reasons I'm standing here instead of other people is that, frankly, I talked about we have to have a strong military. We have to have strong law enforcement also. So we do not go abroad in the search of war. We really are searching for peace, but it's peace through strength. At home, we have begun the monumental task of returning the government back to the people on a scale not seen in many, many years. In each of these actions, I'm keeping my promises to the American people. These are campaign promises. Some people are so surprised that we're having strong borders. Well, that's what I've been talking about for a year and a half, strong borders. They're so surprised. Oh, he's having strong borders. Well, that's what I've been talking about to the press and to everybody else. One promise after another, after years of politicians lying to you to get elected. They lied to the American people in order to get elected. Some of the things I'm doing probably aren't popular, but they're necessary for security and for other reasons. And then coming to Washington and pursuing their own interests, which is more important to many politicians. I'm here following through on what I pledged to do. That's all I'm doing. I put it out before the American people, got 306 electoral college votes. I wasn't supposed to get 222. They said there's no way to get 222. 230 is impossible. 270, which you need, that was laughable. We got 306 because people came out and voted like they've never seen before. So that's the way it goes. I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan. In other words, the media is trying to attack our administration because they know we are following through on pledges that we made, and they're not happy about it for whatever reason. But a lot of people are happy about it. In fact, I'll be in Melbourne, Florida at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and I just heard that the crowds are massive that want to be there. I turn on the TV, open the newspapers, and I see stories of chaos. Chaos. Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine, despite the fact that I can't get my cabinet approved. And they're outstanding people, like Senator Dan Coates, who's there, one of the most respected men in the Senate. He can't get approved. How do you not approve him? He's been a colleague, highly respected, brilliant guy, great guy. Everybody knows it. We're waiting for approval. So we have a wonderful group of people that's working very hard, that's being very much misrepresented about, and we can't let that happen. So if the Democrats who have, all you have to do is look at where they are right now. The only thing they can do is delay, because they've screwed things up royally, believe me. Let me list to you some of the things that we've done in just a short period of time. I just got here. I got here with no cabinet. Again, each of these actions is a promise I made to the American people. So we'll go over just some of them, and we have a lot happening next week and in the weeks coming. We've withdrawn from the job-killing disaster known as Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're going to make trade deals, but we're going to have one-on-one deals, bilateral. We're going to have one-on-one deals. We've directed the elimination of regulations that undermine manufacturing and called for expedited approval of the permits needed for America and American infrastructure. And that means plant, equipment, roads, bridges, factories. People take 10, 15, 20 years to get disapproved for a factory. They go in for a permit. It's many, many years. And then at the end of the process, they spend tens of millions of dollars on nonsense. And at the end of the process, they get rejected. Now, they may be rejected with me, but it's going to be a quick rejection. Not going to take years. But mostly, it's going to be an acceptance. We want plants built, and we want factories built, and we want the jobs. We don't want the jobs going to other countries. We've imposed a hiring freeze on non-essential federal workers. We've imposed a temporary moratorium on new federal regulations. We've issued a game-changing new rule that says for each one new regulation, 2 old regulations must be eliminated. Makes sense. Nobody's ever seen regulations like we have. You go to other countries and you look at industries they have and you say, let me see your regulations. And they're a fraction, just a tiny fraction of what we have. And I want regulations because I want safety, I want all environmental situations to be taken properly care of. It's very important to me. But you don't need 4 or 5 or 6 regulations to take care of the same thing. We've stood up for the men and women of law enforcement, directing federal agencies to ensure they are protected from crimes of violence. We've directed the creation of a task force for reducing violent crime in America, including the horrendous situation, take a look at Chicago and others, taking place right now in our inner cities. Horrible. We've ordered the Department of Homeland Security and Justice to coordinate on a plan to destroy criminal cartels coming into the United States with drugs. We're becoming a drug-infested nation. Drugs are becoming cheaper than candy bars, and we're not going to let it happen any longer. We've undertaken the most substantial border security measures in a generation to keep our nation and our tax dollars safe, and are now in the process of beginning to build a promised wall on the southern border. Met with General, now Secretary Kelly, yesterday, and we're starting that process. And the wall is going to be a great wall, and it's going to be a wall negotiated by me. The price is going to come down just like it has on everything else I've negotiated for the government. And we're going to have a wall that works. We're not going to have a wall like they have now, which is either non-existent or a joke. We've ordered a crackdown on sanctuary cities that refuse to comply with federal law and that harbor criminal aliens, and we've ordered an end to the policy of catch and release on the border. No more release. No matter who you are, release. We've begun a nationwide effort to remove criminal aliens, gang members, drug dealers, and others who pose a threat to public safety. We are saving American lives every single day. Court system has not made it easy for us. And are even creating a new office in Homeland Security dedicated to the forgotten American victims of illegal immigrant violence, of which there are many. We've taken decisive action to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. Though parts of our necessary and constitutional actions were blocked by a judge's, in my opinion, incorrect and unsafe ruling, our administration is working night and day to keep you safe, including reporters safe, and is vigorously defending this lawful order. I will not back down from defending our country. I got elected on defense of our country, and I keep my campaign promises. And our citizens will be very happy when they see the result. They already are, I can tell you that. Extreme vetting will be put in place, and it already is in place in many places. In fact, we had to go quicker than we thought because of the bad decision we received from a circuit that has been overturned at a record number. I've heard 80%. I find that hard to believe. That's just a number I heard, that they're overturned 80% of the time. I think that circuit is in chaos, and that circuit is, frankly, in turmoil. But we are appealing that, and we are going further. We're issuing a new executive action next week that will comprehensively protect our country. So we'll be going along the one path and hopefully winning that. At the same time, we will be issuing a new and very comprehensive order to protect our people. And that'll be done sometime next week, toward the beginning or middle at the latest part. We've also taken steps to begin construction of the Keystone Pipeline and Dakota Access Pipelines, thousands and thousands of jobs, and put new Buy American measures in place to require American steel for American pipelines. In other words, they build a pipeline in this country, and we use the powers of government to make that pipeline happen. We want them to use American steel. And they're willing to do that. But nobody ever asked before I came along. Even this order was drawn, and they didn't say that. And I'm reading the order. I'm saying, why aren't we using American steel? And they said, that's a good idea. We put it in. To drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C., I've started by imposing a 5-year lobbying ban on White House officials and a lifetime ban on lobbying for a foreign government. We've begun preparing to repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare is a disaster, folks. It's a disaster. You know, you can say, oh, Obamacare. I mean, they fill up our rallies with people that you wonder how they get there, but they're not the Republican people that our representatives are representing. So we've begun preparing to repeal and replace Obamacare and are deep in the midst of negotiations on a very historic tax reform to bring our jobs back. We're going to bring our jobs back to this country, big league. It's already happening, but big league. I've also worked to install a cabinet over the delays and obstruction of Senate Democrats. You've seen what they've done over the last long number of years. That will be one of the great cabinets ever assembled in American history. You look at Rex Tillerson is out there negotiating right now. General Mattis, I mentioned before. General Kelly. We have great people. Mick is with us now. We have great people. Among their responsibilities will be ending the bleeding of jobs from our country and negotiating fair trade deals for our citizens. Now look, fair trade. Not free, fair. If a country is taking advantage of us, we're not going to let that happen anymore. Now, every country takes advantage of us, almost. I may be able to find a couple that don't. But for the most part, that would be a very tough job for me to do. Jobs have already started to surge. Since my election, Ford announced it will abandon its plans to build a new factory in Mexico and will instead invest $700 million in Michigan, creating many, many jobs. Fiat Chrysler announced it will invest $1 billion in Ohio and Michigan, creating 2,000 new American jobs. They were with me a week ago. You know, you were here. General Motors likewise committed to invest billions of dollars in its American manufacturing operation, keeping many jobs here that were going to leave. And if I didn't get elected, believe me, they would have left. And these jobs and these things that I'm announcing would never have come here. Intel just announced that it will move ahead with a new plant in Arizona that probably was never going to move ahead with. And that will result in at least 10,000 American jobs. Walmart announced it will create 10,000 jobs in the United States just this year because of our various plans and initiatives. And there'll be many, many more, many more. These are a few that we're naming. Other countries have been taking advantage of us for decades, decades and decades and decades, folks. And we're not going to let that happen anymore. Not going to let it happen. And one more thing. I have kept my promise to the American people by nominating a justice of the United States Supreme Court.
DJ Trump speaking at the White House on Friday. And then, of course, he was off, and now he's holidaying. I guess he'll duck out of his holiday retreat and have his airport hangar type rally at Melbourne, Florida. Let me just bring you up to date here. The correct number he gave from Rasmussen was 55% was his approval rating. However, Gallup, who is basically in the approval rating business these days, have him today on Friday at 38%. He was at 40%. So in other words, historically, old DJ is going downhill there. He was at 39, I believe, in the Pew. Pew 42. I'm sorry, he was at 42 in Pew on Thursday. So now he's dropped, according to Gallup, to 4 points. Now this is their daily poll, so it will fluctuate some. So he's at a high of 55 in Rasmussen, and most of the other polls, he's in the mid-40s. At Reuters, he's 46. At YouGov, which is an internet poll, he's also at a 46. So somewhere between 38 and 55, the fluctuation around. You start, if you looked at and say an average of the approval rating, then you would see an average there of not sure. Let me just check this very quickly here. They don't. I'm not certain if they have an average someplace. Well, no, it's not. It's not there. But we go. Okay, we do the approval rating thing. They usually average this up, and yeah, we have an average of a -5. But again, you have the Gallup poll has him down by 18 points. Rasmussen up by 10. So in other words, these are averages here. They are basically keeping DJ Trump in contention. This will do it for us. We'll return on the week that was on a Saturday morning. And a numbers man also this weekend. Incidentally, we have an open source report on many of these outlets, including on Spreaker. And this report will be on Spreaker. It's exclusive to Spreaker and to iHeart. And also it will be at YouTube in audio form. We're going to start to work on that to put a visual there. And we are working on that and hope to have that done in early March. So we are continuously working here to improve our, we'll call outreach to the people. The new media player here, this is from the Spreaker people, is very interesting. It is easy to use with our various things that we use here with our limiters, etc., the hardware, parts, mixers of our setup. So you should get this broadcast shortly. Good day, and have a good weekend, everyone.